Doesn't a week come around so fast? It's time for the Q&A live again, and here we are. And as usual, I have a whole set of questions that are here right now, and we're going to jump straight into them. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, my name is Kam Dovedi. I'm the founder of Premier Property, and I'm just an investor developer over the last 29 years. And because of this, I love doing this and sharing with our team that's here and answering questions. So exactly what I'm going to do right now. And we've got here questions from our Premier Property Inner Circle team. So we're going to run through these questions. And if you're watching this and you've got questions, whatever those are, there's no silly question. Any question that is relevant to you, or it could be a very specific technical question too, that's fine as well. I will do my best to help you and assist you from my experience in how you can actually move forward in property. So if you're watching this on YouTube, then feel free to subscribe, click on that bell icon, and it will make sure that you get these videos straight away. And like what I say, if you've got any questions, feel free to comment and ask the questions. And I'd also love to hear from you as well in terms of what you want to say. Any comments that you have will be greatly appreciated. So let's move forward straight into the first question. And this is from Mike. Mike is one of our Premier Property Inner Circle members. And Mike is asking, really good question actually. I would like to know the benefits of setting up a limited company to own and manage buy-to-lets and HMOs. Properties, as opposed to doing this in my personal name, is asking Mike. Now, of course, Mike, I can't give you financial advice, but what I can share with you exactly what we do at Premier Property. So now, the big difference here is that when you're investing in a limited company, when you're actually in a limited company, what you find is that you are able to use the GAAP principle, GAAP, very important in accountancy, which is also known as the generally accepted accounting principle. Now, I know that sounds like some terminology there, but really what it really means is that you, in any business, any kind of business, property business, whatever business it is, in any traditional business, you have a turnover, so you make some money, then you'll have some expenses, legitimate expenses, which you can reclaim, and at the end of that, you should have, the idea of course is to make sure that you've got a profit margin there, so you made some money, you made a profit. Now, how can we say this? The government, in their wisdom, what they've done is they've decided to actually take away the biggest expense to you, to me, to all of us, as a team, being in property, being landlords, being investors, the biggest cost there is, which is namely the interest element of your finance. So, for example, your buy-to-let interest, what the government is saying is if you're investing in personal names, that is not allowed. Some of it is, some of it isn't, most of it isn't. Something we can discuss on another day, but also known as Section 24. So Section 24 in a nutshell is saying that you're not allowed to deduct the majority of your expenses on that finance element like I'm sharing with you here right now. Whereas within a limited company, you can do that because within a limited company, it is still right now the same as any other traditional business. Property investing is treated in the same way. So you will have your turnover, so your rental income coming in, for example, as you're saying, you're buying and holding. And from that, you'll have expenses, which you can deduct. And this does include any interest element for your finance as well. So that's the big benefit. One of the big benefits in using limited companies. There's so many different other ways and methods as well why you should use limited companies. But hopefully I've answered your specific question. So hope that helps you, Mike. We've got we've got a bunch of characters, our team joining us. We've got Ivana here. So Ivana is one of our SA mentors within Premier Property. And I believe Roland's here as well. Feel free to join in, give us a quick wave. It's nice to know you're here. And if you're liking the answers to the questions, or even if you're liking the questions, feel free to support us. Give us a quick like. That'd be much appreciated. And I'd love to hear your comments as well, like what I say. So that's Mike's question. Let's now move forward to the second question here. So I'm actually going to run through 4 questions. So the second question here is by Sade. And Sade is saying, Sade, not my favourite singer, but Sade, one of our favourite people in the Premier Property Inner Circle. Just wanted to make that part clear. Get on with it, Cam. Okay, so the point is, The question Charlotte is asking is, so she's saying, I've decided to buy property in a low-cost area for either a flip or for a buy-to-let. How do I go about doing the research, says Sade, for such an area in the UK? Another really good question. So here's the thing. Whether you're flipping or whether you're holding, it's really important that you get the right goldmine area, like we call it at Premier Property, the area that you're actually going to be investing in. Because one of the biggest mistakes that investors make out there is, they get all excited about doing a flip, but they're doing the flip, the buy and sell, if you're like me, traditionally like call it buying and selling or flipping, these days. So if you want to do a flip, extremely important that you do the flip in an area where the flip actually works. I'll explain specifically what I mean by this. Many people out there, unfortunately, they will do flips, they do buying and selling projects in buy-to-let areas, and that is an investment area, that is an investor's area, it's a rental area, and you're not really going to make money from that flip. So the key here, here's 3 specifics that you can really use to make sure that if you're deciding to buy and sell, that you do it in the right area. Firstly, look at purchase prices, assess purchase prices that are over £160,000. Because the reason for this is, if you think about it, so, let's just think about it in a simple way. I like simple makes money. So if you're doing a flip where the property value, let's say, is over 160,000, so it's £160,000, or you're doing a flip in an area where the property value is, let's say, 70,000, and yes, there are such properties all around the country, there's lots of them. You are, let's say, in this instance, just changing the double glazing. The double glazing is going to be a fixed cost, isn't it? Whether you do that to your £160,000 property or whether you do that to your £80,000 property. It's going to be the same numbers that you're using. It's going to be the same figures. So that is going to eat into your percentages on the lower value property. And on the higher value property, what you're going to find is the percentages are diminished. And in real terms, you are making more money. Same applies to, let's say, some of the properties that so at Premier Property, we've got 3 investment areas, just like I'm sharing with you. So we buy properties at purchase prices of £50,000 to £60,000. Absolutely. The best that you can find in the areas. And also, we buy properties at a couple of £100,000. We also buy properties at 500,000. And there's a couple of deals going through at 1.7 million as well, which we call the mini mansion strategy, which is a different strategy. But keeping it to point what you're asking me, what you will find is the fixed costs in most cases are very similar. Definitely up to £500,000, that you will find that the double glazing is going to cost exactly the same. Like what I say, on that 70 grand on that £160,000 property or on that £500,000 property. So surely, if you want to have an extra margin, an extra percentage, you would want to buy and sell in an area where those price points are over 160,000. Hope I'm making sense here for you. So that's something really important to think about. And conversely, the second part of your question about buying buy-to-lets. So we do buy-to-lets at Premier Property, not in London, because in London we're doing developments, permitted developments around the satellite towns around large cities like London, like we do. We're doing buy-to-lets and conversions. So we've got a couple of projects going on right now. One of them is a 10 flat conversion, 10 flat build and conversion, in fact, 9 flats and 1 commercial, to be 10 units in fact, to be crystal clear. And we do lots of, so 3 to 4 projects within those areas, in the fringe areas around large cities, which are buy-to-lets, adding value by adding bedrooms and so on. So these work really well to either flip or you can hold them. But when it comes to buy-to-lets, one of the areas that we invest in, we actually got 2 areas outside of London. Let's call it the north of Watford. So these are properties which are the prices of around the typically values of 70 to 80,000. We always get discounts at Premier Property. All the things I share with you guys, all the things by doing that you actually get discounts, and we buy these at 50, 60-ish thousand pounds. And what we're finding here is that these work really well, not for flips, because of the reasons I've already mentioned, but these work really well on income. HMOs. So, we have a number of units for HMOs, which are all around student accommodation and professional accommodation. And these rent really well. So there isn't necessarily a massive uplift, although we always look for the discount, we always look for the uplift, but there is, even more so the income coming in. So for buy-to-let areas, we're always looking at purchase prices below £160,000. So I said I mentioned three. So I mentioned three then. So first one is for flips over £160,000. Secondly, you want to be in an area where you grade it from 1 to 10, where 1 is the worst area within that area, and 10 is the most most desirable area you can imagine. Marinas, large gated communities, all of that. And you want to be, for a flip, you really want to be grading that between a 7 and a 10. Okay, we can go into further detail on another question or on another video. Actually, I'll make a note of that and we'll do a video on that, if that's something you want. If you do want a video on that, actually just give me a little thumbs up right now if you'd like a video on the gradings of 1 to 10. Okay, so or give us a wave. So wave or thumbs up means that we'll do that. So if you want some videos on grading 1 to 10, thumbs up. If you get enough thumbs up, we'll do that. Simple as. Or if you comment below, we will do that. Okay. So you grade it between 1 and 10, and we're looking at 7 to 10, like I say, for flips. So that's the second point you need to remember. The third point I want to share with you is for the rental side of things. So if you're renting and it's buy-to-let or HMOs, it's the yield that you really want to be looking at, the gross yield. So at Premier Property for buy-to-lets, we're looking at a minimum of 7% gross yield. Keeping in mind that Knight Frank and Savills, they're in the region of anywhere between 4.8 to 5% in the sort of northern territories, let's call it. And at Premier Property, our bare minimum is 7%. So, we're well ahead, a really professional level. And I share this with you guys as well. And you can do this. It's, pretty simple to do. Yes, you've got to learn how to do it, but you can do it. So 7% becomes the gross yield for buy-to-lets, anything there and above. And when it comes to HMOs, we're looking at good quality HMOs. So what I mean by good quality HMOs are HMOs, houses of multiple occupancy, where you're renting out room by room. We are looking at HMOs, the ones that we get at Premier Property are the ones that you can actually fill, and here's the big one, that you can actually keep filled. Because that is the big one. Your yield, your rental, is only going to be there if you've got tenants there, right? Hopefully you agree with me. So when it comes to these types of HMOs, we are working on 10 to 12%. I'd say 10 to 12% in prime areas, in the north as well. And we can achieve between, you can get up to 14 to 16%. Be wary of people telling you that you can get 20, 25%. Now, that might work on paper, but in reality, because exactly what I'm sharing with you is reality and what we actually are doing, what you will find is that might be, for example, local housing allowance, benefit tenants, where, absolutely fine for a buy-to-let, but when it comes to a HMO, you imagine you've got individuals in there that really have a lot of time on their hands, and you will find, what you'll find is your property is rented for a very short time and then it's empty and you've got one tenant in there. So your yield isn't really there, is it? Although initially it sounded great on paper. So be aware of people telling you stuff like that, which sounds great in concept, but what we're talking about, of course, discussing here is reality. So there you have the numbers. Hope that helps, Sade. So went into a large one there. So feel free to pick that one and just use it, please. Great question. So, Nana's joining us. Nana's another one of our Premier Property Inner Circle members, a very well-heeled investor, but he's on it. Welcome, Nana. Right, okay, so we're going to jump on to the next question. So the next question, it's one of our regulars. It's Palashi. Palashi, I love the fact that every week you have a question, and I love the fact that, you actually apply the information as well. I can say that because I know you well enough. So, Palashi, let's look at your question. So, of course, as usual, I'm reading it off the cuff. So the question is, so Palashi is saying, during my research for houses, I often come across a lot of flats, but I tend to avoid them because of the incurring costs, such as ground rent, says Palashi. Maintenance charges, which impact the cash flow negatively. Is it worth investing in flats? And what type of flats are an ideal for investment? That's a brilliant question, Palashi. It's a question that gets asked quite commonly, you know. Should it be houses? Should it be flats? Should you go for a 2-bedroom house, or should it be a 3-bedroom house? Or should it be a 1-bedroom flat or a 2-bedroom flat? Well, the thing is, it's about what gets you the result. So the way we do this at Premier Property is starting with the end in mind. So what is the result that you're wanting to achieve? Is it what we just discussed in the previous question? Is it a flip? Is it a yield calculation? Is it rental that you're looking for? What do you want to achieve? What's your strategy? So start with that first of all. And then as far as buying flats or buying houses is concerned, to be fair, to us at Premier Property, it doesn't really matter. Like I say, it's about the result. So we work from the numbers. So I've already mentioned the number of 160,000, which is a really good number. So if we're looking for buying and selling of any shape and form or developing, we're looking at 160k and over. So the project I mentioned to you earlier on about the 10 units. So that's a project which we're purchasing for 315,000. It's a development site, and the end value of that is 1.8 million. Other properties purchasing 125,000 and value 225,000. Other properties in the value of 50 to 60,000, and the end values of those is 70 to 85,000. So each and every one of these has margins, but they're completely different strategies on what you're wanting to do. So we mentioned a couple, buy-to-let or flipping. So if your strategy is to develop, if your strategy is to buy and sell, if your strategy is to do some form of conversion to sell on, to flip, then, if you're like us, what you're going to be doing is you are looking at purchase prices over the 160,000. And if you're looking to hold, you're looking at purchase prices below that 160,000. So what you can do is you can go straight into Rightmove. You can type in your area postcode, and you can put in a parameter of up to £160,000. In fact, you put a little bit of a contingency, a little bit of flag in there. So, the 160, you actually look at properties up to the 180,000 value. So you can negotiate down, can't you? So up to 160,000, and what you'll find is the properties will come up. So depending on the area, so for example, like I say, one of our areas is London, and in certain parts of London, yes, you can find properties below the purchase price of 160,000 if that's what you wanted to do, on the fringes, on the edges, or in certain parts of the country, certain parts of large towns even. So what you'll find in large towns, why I mentioned large towns, is that you will find that value up to 160,000 ain't gonna be a house, it's gonna be a flat, but it gets you the same result. So start thinking about purchase prices and end values. That's my suggestion for you, Palashi, rather than is it a house or is it a flat, because it's a means to an end. Hope that makes sense. And to answer your second part of the question, which are the ideal types of investments? Well, when it comes to flats, the ones that I like are the ones that we're developing. So we like to be on the other side of it, developing the flats. I very rarely actually buy flats, but if we are buying flats, on a rare occasion that we are looking. What I found works really well, and this is your strategy to work really well for you, is if you look at flats that councils are selling on, then you will find that the ground rents are really low. So in areas like London or other larger cities, you will find that typically you can identify that because the ground rent will show up as a very nominal figure, such as £10. So when you see that, you can very easily detect that is a council flat. Hope that makes sense. So that's a great way. So council flats work really well. Also be looking at a track record for service charges. because you've got to be careful, right? It can be a quite sharky world out there. There are, I'm just being real with you, really. There are people out there where their strategy is to take a property, become the freeholder, and then really raise the service charges, to the nth degree. So you really got to be aware of that. So the way that you can overcome this is that you can actually look for freeholders that have actually been with the property for a very long time. So if you're buying a leasehold flat, look for a freeholder that's got some longevity of being there. So 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. I mean, that's a great way for you to assess this. So you know that there's some continuity, and you can look back and see what the service charges are. So hope that helps. That's the way that you can really pinpoint really good flats. Excellent question. Oh, Sade's coming in with a question. So Sade's saying, why is 160,000 the magic number? Well, Sade, to be fair, it's just my experience. I've been doing this for a while. Started back in 1989, and many of these formulas that we've come up with is literally learning by trial and error, learning. And to be fair, I love learning, and we continue to learn. It doesn't matter how many projects we're doing. What I've realized is that learning is lifelong, and obviously I'm speaking to you, which you're doing as well. So we're on the same page. It is just my humble experience, to be fair, over a lot of time, which I'm happy to share with you. So there you go, have it. It's now yours. 160 is a number that really works. A lot of assessment behind that. Brilliant. So we've got some more questions coming up. You're welcome, Sade. Sade saying thank you there. Welcome. Right. Okay. So Palashi, I hope that answered your question there as well. Next up we have Cian Lu, and then we got more live questions coming up as well. So we're gonna answer. I'm gonna do my best to attempt to answer these 2 live questions as well. Okay. So question by Cian Lu. Very active right now. This lady is so active. And Cian is saying, hi guys, any ideas how much does it typically cost to knock down a kitchen wall and turn it into an open plan kitchen? Cian, what are you up to, hey? What are you doing this week? Yeah. Okay, knocking down kitchen walls and turning it into an open plan kitchen. It's a standard 3-bedroom terrace, semi-detached house. Cian, I'm glad you're asking this question right now, and you haven't knocked down. I hope you haven't knocked anything down as yet. So, got to be very careful with this one. I mean, it's a great way. I get what you're doing. It's a great way to open up space. It's a great way to buy and sell properties. Great way to add value, depending on where you are and what areas there is. Do be conscious of the wall that you want to knock down. So, keys to remember here. Is it a structural wall, or is it not a structural wall? Yeah. If it's not a structural wall, then you're going to find that your costs are going to be, really low. To be fair, so I'm gonna shout out. Now, I haven't seen the wall, I haven't seen the property, but reading your question, I'm going to shout out some really good rule of thumb, ballpark figures that will work for you. So remember, I haven't seen the property. Okay, so these are rules of thumb. So for the kind of property that you're talking about, if you're knocking out that wall and it's a non-structural wall, please do check this. Bare minimum, check with a good quality contractor and back it up by an engineer, a structural engineer. Always do that. I like to do this cost effectively, and the way you can do this cost effectively is usually you can get a good local engineer, structural engineer, who can give you a verbal report. A verbal report will be so much more cost effective than a written report. The result is more or less the same because you're getting the right answer, whether it's structural or whether it's not, and it will save you 2/3 of your investment in paying for that structural engineer. I hope you are enjoying these tips and comments and answering these questions. If you are, I'm just going to mention it one more time. Do subscribe if you're here watching this on YouTube, and I will carry on sharing with you. So, Cian, so that's the way that you can actually gauge whether it's a structural or non-structural. For a non-structural wall of the type that I'm guesstimating that you're discussing here, we'll say end-to-end meaning the knocking down of the wall, making good and all of that. you're looking at around £2,000. Okay, if it's a structural wall, there's going to be lintels involved. You will need to instruct building control, will need to be involved in that as well to make sure that you're doing it correctly, and also making sure that your resale value is there, because the question will be asked, what happened to the wall? And that's when people get undone. So you know this right now, so you can check that. So building control, some structural calculations, lintels. These days what we're finding, I mean, we've got a couple of these going on right now where the structural engineers are asking for metal supports, not just a lintel. So there's metal supports required. So that could run into the whole encompassing expense for that. You're looking at something in the region of 4 to 5k, there or thereabouts. And remember, this is a quick guesstimate I'm sharing with you for everything, including the building control and so on. Something like that would be a reasonable amount for what you're looking to do, depending on the type of wall. Hope that answers your question there, Sian. So really good technical question. I like that one. And now we're going to go on to the live questions. So we've got a couple of live questions here. Okay, so first of all, we have Zamar. So Zamar, in our Premier Property Inner Circle member, asking the question. Also a very good contract lawyer, by the way. So what is Zamar's question? Right, so Zamar is saying, do you recommend, I'm just reading off this phone here, do you recommend we go for a capital repayment or interest only for my daughter's first property where she will be living in? That is such a deep and intense question, and I'm going to answer it for you right now. So, when it comes to assets, and when it comes to liabilities, there's a great book, feel free to read it, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If you haven't read it already, feel free to read it. If you've read it, read it again. And in there, it talks about assets putting money into your pocket now, and liabilities taking money out of your pocket. So many accountants will say your property is an asset, but if that property isn't making any money for you, then actually, technically, as property investors, like us at Premier Property, that really is a liability, because it's not creating any income or any cash for you. So you got that. Now, I remember having this conversation with my son, driving him to school. He was 7 years old, and we were discussing assets putting money in his pocket and liabilities taking money out of their pocket. And kids, aren't they, so simple, aren't they? When it was so clear and just say what they want to say. And, Vishal turned around and said to me, he said, Dad, I eat food and I'm wearing clothes. And he said, am I a liability? And first of all, that brought tears to my ears, to my eyes even. And then I really thought about, what he actually said there, the comment that he made. And what I've realized is it's not just about assets and liabilities. There's actually something that sits right in the middle, and that is necessity. So at Premier Property, the way we view, our home, you view your home, it's actually a necessity, isn't it? Because the values can go up, the values can go down, but in the whole great scheme of things, what does it really matter? Because that's your comfort space, that's your roof over your head, that's your that's your your human fundamental need for shelter. So as far as Premier Property are concerned, that is a necessity. And the necessity, any finance on that necessity, the way we do this is you chip away at it. So you can create assets by investing. You can invest in buy-to-lets and HMOs, and you can make money from that. You've got income coming in. Or you can flip properties. You can buy and sell. You can, PD. I'm loving PD right now. I'm going to be sharing more about permitted development. It really is such exciting times. Never ever happened. First time ever in my life that I'm noticing what is happening with permitted development. Really exciting times. And I will be covering, like I say, more of this as we go through September, October, and so on. So, another ways of getting cash in. So you've got cash coming in from whichever way, income coming in, and it's about chipping away at the necessity. So paying off that loan, that is my view. This is what we do when it comes to your personal home. When it comes to investments, it's a whole different arena. But the question you're asking me is about a personal home. So the personal home, what we do is we aim for a capital repayment, and it kind of in a pleasurable way actually helps you to pay down that loan. So the aim of the game is to have no debt on your necessity, which is your home, so that you are safe and you are secure. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so you got a follow-up question. Zamar, I love the fact you're so cheeky. It's always good to be cheeky on the right side of cheeky, like we are at Premier Property. And by the way, if you're still here and you're still watching this, and you're loving the answers and you're enjoying this, and you're having a bit of a laugh maybe as well, that's okay. Feel free to subscribe. Right here, there's a thing here somewhere, isn't there, where you can subscribe on, and you can click on that bell icon, so you get these videos straight away. I do love these. It's a lot of fun, isn't it, eh? So, Zaman, what is your follow-up question? Follow-up question, I'll read it on here. Follow-up question is, how is she allowed to let it out? How is she allowed to let it out after a few years of living in it once she outgrows it? I assume, this is what Zamar is saying, I assume she needs to include this in the terms and conditions of the mortgage for the future. Yeah, makes sense. Thanks, Cam. Smiley face. Do you like smiley faces? Feel free to add in a smiley face even at any given point that you like in this video. And I can get to the point. So, yes, Zamar, you're absolutely right. Now, in order to do that, the way we've done this with residences in the past, and you can do this, your daughter can do this, is you can ask the lenders to convert that mortgage into a buy-to-let mortgage. Okay, so there's lots of fancy terms and terminology for this. They keep changing it. They call it all different things. But literally what you're saying is, you are getting the permission from the lender to either to say, look, please, we will be renting this property out. Please, can you convert this into a buy-to-let property, buy-to-let mortgage even. Or you might go to a new lender and just say, look, we're actually getting a new residence. We would like a buy-to-let mortgage on this because we'll be renting it out. Once you've done this, then you're absolutely fine. So consent to let, or you can move forward and get a buy-to-let mortgage on it. Hope that makes sense. Lenders right now, you got a depends on the lender. You got an 80% chance of them saying no right now, and you got a 20% chance of them saying yes to consent to let. But even if they say no, that's okay. There's always a way. There's always a workaround. And like what I say, you just go to another lender that will allow you to do that. And there are plenty of them right now. So I hope that answers your question there, Zaman. Brilliant. So I think we are here. We're on time. I hope you're enjoying the questions. And I want to mention one more time, feel free to subscribe. Click on the bell icon. It's Kam Dovedi at Premier Property, helping you to take your property investing to the next level. And I will see you here with God's grace, same time next week. See you later.